Thank you very much to Central Catholic High School. And I want to start today by thanking Eric, who is the city manager of the 7th largest city in America. It's a big job. Every time you hear a fire truck, Eric had something to do with getting that fire truck going, and the staff and the compensation system. Every time you see a plane fly over going into our airport, that's an airport that the city manager runs. 16, 20 or so different major departments: police, fire, convention center, economic development, all report to the city manager. And that is a Central Catholic graduate. Legend has it that he was looking out the window one day in class and saw a fellow running down the street. And it happened several days. So he asked, "Who is that fellow?" And somebody said, "Well, that's Lou Fox, the city manager of San Antonio." He said, "What's a city manager?" Someone explained it to him, and that piqued his interest and put him on a track toward becoming the city manager. So today we have Eric Walsh, the city manager, and Lou Fox, the former city manager who inspired him. Guys, please stand up and let's everybody represent. Lou used to run about 10 miles at lunch, believe it or not. But as Eric said, our city is blessed in having Central Catholic graduates who've been part of the structure. I don't know whether you remember, but Jerry Hinkle was the city manager in the 1960s. And then Alex Briseño was the city manager, one of the longest serving ever. And now Eric is enjoying what I tell him is one of the longest honeymoons a city manager has ever had. Everybody likes him in town. So this school is a city manager factory. And as you heard Eric mention, people who've been involved in the city government. Roland Lozano was in my class at Central. He used to run the planning department, the convention center, and the dome. Dr. Fernando Guerra was about 60-ish or so, class of 60. And he became a nationally respected director of public health. George Hernandez, of course. George, I think we need to recognize George. He runs the University Health System. University Health System. George, please stand. He's retired. George started at the city government in the city legal department, the city attorney's office, and went on to have about a 20-year tenure running university health and built it up into the finest hospital system we have in the city today. From the county hospital that people look down on to the best emergency system and the best level care, etc. He mentioned other people. Frank Kiobasa, who was recognized today, was the public works director the whole time that I was mayor. Carlos Contreras now runs Goodwill after having been an assistant city manager. So this school has really produced people who have served our city. We have, as Eric mentioned, several city council members here. Juan Solis, District 5, Roger Flores, District 1, and my brother-in-law, Roger Pettis, District 1, of the City Council. Some people in the city refer to it as the Central Mafia. And I tell them, it's just Central guys doing what they were taught to do and supposed to do to make life better. I'm very proud to be inducted into the Central Catholic Hall of Fame with Doug Cross, who I've admired for many years. He's built thousands of homes, built AAA Auger, and created it into a national company that his son is now involved in, and has served Central and our community. I once had to take a development project that would be close to Bishop Concepcion and required the approval of the Archbishop's committee. And who was the key person on that committee who gave us instruction on how it would, that development project would be aligned with the interests of the church, but Doug Cross. Once again, Doug Cross, congratulations on today's recognition. And as I mentioned, Frank Kiobasa was the Public Works Director. And Public size is a massive job, from flood control and street issues and just everything related to sort of sanitation issues. The public works director is on the line every single day, and Frank deserves this induction. Among the many central blessings that I want to mention today is Providence High School. Because if it hadn't been for Providence High School, I would not have met Mary Alice. Actually, we met in grade school, but she was too young to even talk to. But when she came to Providence, all of a sudden, things changed. And she has done a wonderful job over the years. I want to publicly thank her for everything that Mary Alice has meant to our family. She's served on the city council herself. But mostly I want to thank her that she looked at that picture of that guy you see on the screen and she said, I think it's to look better with time. And she stayed with me. The other girls' school, of course, that's important to Central is Incarnate Word High School. It's important to our family because my daughters are here from California. Teresa, who went to Yale, and Mercedes, who went to Stanford from Incarnate Word. But they all had their share of time with Central boys over the years. Teresa and Mercedes, please let me recognize you. My son, John Paul, was not able to be here today. He was en route. Plane was delayed last night. It wasn't possible for him to make it in this morning, but obviously we're very proud of him. And clearly, life would not have been, for me, involved with Central experience except for my parents. My dad, who I rode with every day to school, he dropped me off out here on the street on his way to Fort Sam Houston. He was a World War II veteran and taught me everything I know about public ideals and patriotism. My mother was an even deeper story. She had a brother who was 14 years old here at Central. His name was Henry Munguia. She's the Munguia family. And at 14 years old, he contracted leukemia and died. She went to visit with him the afternoon before he passed at Santa Rosa. And he said to her, when you have a son, I want you to name him Henry. And she said, what are you talking about? I don't even have a boyfriend. I don't even know I'll ever have a son. And she said, you will have a boyfriend, you will be married, and you will have a son. And I want you to name him Henry. So she did, that's me. And so she was committed to Central all her life. I think I never had an option but to come to Central. And so I owe that to my mom. I have brothers and sisters here today that I want to recognize, all with Central background. My brother George here was the commander of the Corps and vice president of the student council. My brother Tim was in the musical area a lot, including a group that Brother Martin's created called His Brother's Children. It took a group to Romania. Tim was in that group. And a year later, it expanded to include the girls' schools. And my sister Tina was in that group. And she went to Poland, representing Central in Poland. So thank you, Tim and Tina and George, for being here today. I have to thank many, many people for my experience at Central Catholic High School. I used to say the brothers at Central know how to raise boys. There's a kind of a Central Catholic system. And I'd like to focus just briefly on 3 reasons why I believe that. The first is the Central Catholic culture of the pursuit of excellence. Creates a sense of belonging to a team, of an extended family, of connection through loyalty, of competition, sometimes fierce competition, but it's all designed to sharpen, to improve, to teach. I came to Central younger than my class, because I skipped a grade, but that just meant I had classmates to look up to. They were a little older and leaders, role models, like the fellows who are here today, the class of 1964. I don't know how many classes from Central gather to this day every month, but the class of 64 does. And I'd like to ask my classmates from the class of 64 to please stand. And thank you guys for being here today. society, and I particularly want to thank Jesse Herrera and Manny Fernandez over the years for being attentive to keeping the class together. Thank you guys. I noticed last night when I was doing some notes for this, I found our graduation program. The date of our graduation was May 23rd, 1964. Today is May 22nd. Tomorrow will be the 60th anniversary of these group of guys graduating and having spent those years. And obviously there are many other examples of central excellence in this room, people who just deserve thanks because of what they have meant to Central, like Clarence Cayley. We're in the Cayley complex of buildings here. Clarence, thank you for your work. Bob made a career at UPS and came back and has been giving to Central. We're now in a new gymnasium, but the old gymnasium is a library with up-to-date computer equipment because Robert L. Young and his wife funded that. John Longoria is back over here, who's a judge in our community, Coach Enrico, who was previously inducted into the Hall of Fame. This is a truly outstanding group of people, and it's impossible to name everyone. But the central culture of striving for excellence, striving to contribute, is one of the most important lessons for me. Another is just the commitment to hard work and seeing things to completion. It's a very rare set of characteristics that we find in our society. The night of our graduation, I was not in line for any special recognition. I wasn't at the top of the class or deserved any particular recognition, so I was completely surprised when my name was called for a medal. The medal was for perfect attendance. It was a complete surprise. I had never tracked perfect attendance. I didn't know I had perfect attendance. I didn't know the school was tracking perfect attendance. But there it was. In truth, my mother should have gotten the medal because I can still hear her say, "You're not sick, you need to be in school." So the ethic of just sticking with it. When I was in the cabinet, President Clinton used to say, half the battle is just showing up. There's a lot of truth to that. When I got to A&M, I knew it was going to be a very hard track. And in those days, the hazing of the Corps of Cadets was pretty intense. But there was a fellow named Narciso Cano, who had been one class ahead of us, of me, at Central. And he had been in the Corps, but not a particularly, stellar member of the Corps. But he got to A&M, and he was the commander of the freshman drill team at A&M. And he gave me the sense that if you can do it at Central, you can excel at A&M. So it was that preparation that we had at Central that reminds me of the Navy SEALs slogan. There are only two ways to do a job. Do it right or do it again. So from that lesson came a sense of just seeing things to completion, seeing jobs to completion. The final thing that I want to say was, for me, a takeaway is the sense of Catholic devotion and Catholic social teaching that is interwoven with our academics and with our character education at Central. The day before graduation, which would have been 60 years ago, was the last day on campus. And I've never really told anybody this before, but I went up to the chapel. Remember the chapel that was over in the main building? Had sort of wooden planks at the top of it, beautiful windows. And I just wanted some time alone, last day on campus, to thank the Virgin Mary, to whom devotion had been drilled into us by the Brothers of Mary. And I wanted to say thank you. And I said, I don't know what is ahead, but I know I'll need your help again. That was a deep experience because I went directly to her. Not as an intermediary to her son, but directly to her as the essence of my mother, grandmother, Our Lady Guadalupe, the Immaculate Conception. And I came away with a comfort about what I was leaving Central with. The core of Catholic lessons and Central lessons. Do something that makes a difference. Do something that helps others. Make the world better because you are here. I later came to relate that concept to what we say in the Lord's Prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's a tall order. On earth as it is in heaven. Eric Walsh can tell you that the cross currents in the seventh largest city in the nation, with crime and drugs and heartbreaks of all kind, that a city is no heaven on earth. So that means there's a lot of work to do. Each of us at Central has had a moment when we came to similar conclusions about our purpose in life. Class of 1964. As seniors, that previous fall, we walked out here at the corner of Avenue B and Broadway on November 21st, 1963, to see President Kennedy drive by. The next day, we were in class when across the audio system came the message of his death in Dallas. And we drove home. I remember Brother Martin's walking with his eyes red, crying. Multiple of the brothers, Irish Catholic brothers, couldn't believe that this had happened in America. That same class, class of 64, graduated from college, different colleges, in 1968. In January, the Tet Offensive in Vietnam proved that war was not nearly over. Demonstrations broke out in the streets of the United States, and in March, President Johnson announced that he would not run for president. In April, Dr. King was assassinated, and the cities burned all over America that night. In June, Senator Kennedy was killed after the California primary, and the Democratic Convention was a bloodbath in Chicago. The nation was near civil war in a contentious, even violent, presidential election. That year focused on the purpose question for me. It settled the career question for me. Cities, housing, domestic policy, infrastructure, urban economic development for striving people were marginalized, being brought into the American mainstream. That's what I decided to do. And that's what I've been trying to do ever since. And that is my interpretation of what I took from Central. Do something to leave the world better. It doesn't mean do it when it's convenient, or do it when the path is easy, or do it for a time. I believe it means do the utmost you can every day for as long as you can. And that, I believe, to me, is the Central way. The Central Catholic High School way. And for that, we are all grateful. Thank you very much.